after this session. So Juliana, the team is yours. Hi, Douglas. The team is yours, Juli.
Okay, thank you, Diego. All right, so I have a question first before we begin, and it's, would you like us to just take that look at the MYP platform, or would you prefer if we go answering those questions, Kiara, that you shared with Diego and Ale?
I would say probably since most of us are going to use MYP, Toddle MYP for the first time, it would be better if we get like an overview of the platform. And then if we have specific question, then it's going to be, you know, like we can answer them. Let's just say that for the beginning of the year, we're planning to use Toddle Planner, Toddle Classroom, Toddle Journal, and the attendance. So those are the 4 main features that we all need for the beginning of the year.
Okay, thank you, Kiara. That sounds perfect then. So I will share my screen. I imagine, of course, that all of you have already, you all have already accessed Toddle, yeah? Okay, so we're not gonna go into the sign-in section. We'll just jump into the platform already. Yeah, so I have your questions here. I'll try to tag them as we go, but if not, of course, we can look at them later after we take a look at the platform. All right, so the MYP platform, and one more question. You all are more familiar with the PYP?
Not all of us. Some of us
Okay.
are. Some of us are new. Some just works in the MYP. So it's kind of like.
Okay, and I ask that because of course you're going to see a lot of similarities with the PYP, but there are also little things that you are not going to find in the MYP that are in the PYP, and that's because we don't need them necessarily in the MYP, right? So it may happen that you're searching for something and maybe it's just not going to be there. So the MYP platform is, of course, we have our homepage, and you in your school. I'm going to use a demo account over here so that I can kind of switch and move things. But in your platform, of course, it should work the same. Over here where you have the school name, La Escola, instead of School Success, you would have here the ability to switch from your MYP to your PYP. Of course, you have the Toddle community, which at the moment is for the PYP. And we have the admin portal. For the MYP, at the moment, we are working on having more sample resources for you. And those sample resources that we will be adding periodically, you're going to find them here. So this is always a good place to start if a teacher, especially if a teacher is maybe new to the MYP. It's a good place to start over here to just explore a couple of sample units. This library is going to grow, so always do explore it to see what you can find. Yes. Okay. If you have any questions, by the way, please feel free to ask. Just open your microphone and ask. No problem at all. We have similar also to the PYP, and actually I have it mixed here, but you will also have your announcements. Remember that this is a tool that you can use with your teachers and with your team. Of course, even with students to exchange information. You mentioned, Kiara, the attendance. So over here, we're going to have the attendance dashboard. I will go a little bit more into attendance in a little bit. We have our class stream review. So this is where I'm going to be able to, since you are going to be using Classroom, this is the place where I'm going to be able, and I'll just click there, to keep track of the different tasks that I am assigning to my students and how many students have have turned in, how many I have evaluated, and how many have not responded yet as well, right? So this is what the teachers are going to be able to use in order to keep track of their classroom. But I want us to see this from a specific class first, and then this will, of course, make more sense. Kiara, or any of you, of course, do you do personal project, community project, both?
We do community project in grade 8th. Doug, we don't do any personal project, right? You're mute.
No, we don't do the personal project.
Okay, so of course it depends on the number of years. So this, we can just disable it in your platform. You don't need to see this, but you will be able to also have the possibility to follow up with on the community projects with a module that we have. And the module, just to give you a little overview, we can set up a training session specifically for community project if this is something that you would like to use. But just to kind of give you a very quick summary, essentially, what do we have? We have a different view for the community project coordinator, for the supervisors, and for the students. So as you can imagine, you can set deadlines, you can have templates for what you expect students to turn in, and you can also set that up over here so that students can kind of have that place where instead of maybe having a folder somewhere else, they can just have all of their information over here. They can even keep evidence, and of course, everything else that we expect them to do in the MYP. So that's something that also we are very happy to give you a bit more information on if that's of your interest. We have here a services action. So this is something that you can follow up on over here in your dashboard as well. And well, what you can see here, family messaging if you're using it, and progress reports at the moment. These are not points that you mentioned. So let's go into one of these classes and just take a look at the setup for the MYP in my class. I'm going to go into this year one science. And what we will find here is, so by default, we will be in planning, unit planning. So we will have our units here for this specific class. And of course, we have the ability to create a new unit, right? Now, just before we go there, what else can I do from here? I can look at either this view that I'm seeing right now, card view, or I can also see a timeline view, right? So if I want to see how my units are kind of overlapping or how they're taking place throughout my unit, I can always look at that, go back to the card unit, and here I am inside my class. Before we go a little deeper into the unit planning, let's just and let's take an overview of what we have here, right? So we have our unit planning, we have our weekly planning. So over here, I'm going to have the ability to create my periods, right? This is what a teacher would normally do. We have our timetable. So as you can see, you can do this in Toddle as well. What's the added value of doing this in Toddle is that if I create my periods here, I can also add learning experiences, right? Or formative assessment, summative assessment. So I can also add what I'm doing in a specific period. So just to give you a very quick overview of this, let's say that over here, this is where we have this class. I can change the time here. Maybe it's from 7:10 to 7:40. I can add a color. And as you can see, I need to save and exit. So I have now added a period to my timetable, right? Will it copy into every week? Yes, because we assume that usually as teachers, we have a same schedule every week, right? If you need to change it, you change it. Now, what can I add? I can add a specific learning experience. So I can say, you know, we're starting the year, we're all fresh, we're starting our new unit. And over here, I'm going to do a provocation of this unit. So I can just say, here it is. I have my new unit and I'm going to have this learning experience over here. I can also add teacher's notes, right? Which is anything, whether it's feedback, or you can also, you know, maybe you want to bring some books from the library before your class. So just you can type a little note to yourself so that you don't forget. So this is over here also in the planning. Of course, it's part of our planning, part of our teacher planning anyway. And we also have our planning insights that teachers can follow up. This is very similar to what you have as admins, right? Where you can kind of keep track what you're covering in terms of your MYP curriculum. But over here as teachers, we can also do that, right? Why? We can perhaps get ideas for those transdisciplinary for those interdisciplinary units. So if I want to see who else or what global contexts are being used in the other years of science, or if I want to see those insights for any other information, I can do it from here, right? So this is what would take part of the teacher's planning section over here.
Liana,
Do you guys have any questions? Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, I have two questions actually. Related to the weekly and yearly planning. When I create the schedule, can the students see the schedule too, or just me, just the teacher?
For the time being, just you.
Okay. And when I create that, for example, I am the MYP design teachers. If I create my weekly planning on my design class, can also my other colleagues see that, or just me?
So yeah, that's a very good question. So the weekly planner is specific for your class, for your teacher. Now, if you do want another teacher, because you're working very collaboratively to see your planning, they can have access to your class, for example, and they can enter, no problem. But it's not going to reflect in their own class.
Okay, so there is not a place where the whole schedule is viewable for teachers or students or something like that at the moment, right?
At the moment, no.
Okay, thanks.
And like a work around this, if we did want to make this, if we did, for example, want to share this with the students or with other teachers, what we suggest for the time being, until possibly we have something similar that meets that need that some schools do have, would be to take a screenshot and then share it through an announcement or the educator center. So over here, we are in weekly planning, and actually since we did bring that back, it's important, if you have realized, if you've been working with Toddle a little bit, that if I'm here in weekly planner and I go back home, when I come back to my class, what's going to appear is the last place that I was in. Okay, so don't get confused. There's nothing wrong with the platform. You just need to go back to where you were. So unit planning. Okay, the next part that we have is classroom. Let's go into classroom. I have a question. Would you guys like to go over the creation of a new unit? Or is
that's a question for the other. I know how to do it. I don't know if somebody wants to know that. Okay, let's just do that. If you want to go through the planner, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yes, please. I get a yes, please, from Alvaro.
Okay. Yeah, so then let's do that.
Okay, because then that way we can look at a couple of things in classroom then from here. So to create a new unit, this is super intuitive. You're gonna love it. It's very fun creating units here in Toddle because you have all the information there. You essentially just bring it in, right? So to create a new unit, we're going to decide if it's interdisciplinary, subject specific. This is one of the only parts where we kind of say, be a little sure of what you're going to choose. Anything else that you then add into your unit, you can edit. This we can, if you switch templates, we can change it, but it does need to be done from the back end. So, and of course, the objectives and everything change. So usually we know if we're gonna do subject specific or interdisciplinary. So the first thing, of course, is the name of the unit. So we can call this, let's say that we're gonna do a unit on Italy. Since I'm creating this within my science class, it already tells me your subject group is science, your subject is science, right? Of course, if I was creating an interdisciplinary unit, I would choose those units, those subjects, groups, and subjects right here. And we're going to choose which objectives we're using. I'm using the year 1 objectives. Start and end date. If you know them, you put them here. If you don't know them, you can edit that later, no problem. And as you can see, we have a library of images here, which we can always use, right? You can also bring images, of course, from any other part. So we bring in our image, and with that, we're almost done creating the skeleton of the unit, okay? This sharing part is important, and especially when it comes to who you want to see your unit and who you want to be able to edit your unit. So when we talk about seeing a unit, so at this moment, if I only have year 1 science checked, a copy of this unit is only going to be in year 1 science, right? What if I wanted a copy of this unit to also be in another science class? I can do that. Okay, so this is a possibility, but as you can see, it stays within the boundaries of our subjects. So you can decide, yes, let's put a copy of this in year 2 science. And what's going to happen is that it's then going to tell me, are you sure that you want all of these people to be able to edit your unit? Why am I getting these people? These are the people, the teachers or staff members in any case, that are mapped to year 1 science, year 2 science. Now, if for some reason you don't want somebody to edit, right? Maybe they're a substitute teacher and you don't want them necessarily to be making any changes, you can just control that over here. You click create. And with that, you have created the skeleton of your unit. If I go back over here just to show you, we are going to get that unit over here first. Okay, so by the way, Toddle is going to organize your units by the newest one or the last one you edited is going to be first. It's going to appear first. So over here we have our Italy. As you can see, we have very few information. In this other one, I have that we have learning experiences, we have assessments. In this one, all we have is the time. Okay, what can I do from here? I can edit my unit. I can create a duplicate. So if you have a unit that you don't want to touch, but you want to work on something similar, you can do that. Just create a duplicate. You can print it, of course, and if I want to, I can edit it. Okay, I can edit unit from here. I can also just go into view unit. And if I click anywhere, it's going to go into edit mode. So I'm going to, right now, we have all of our planning here. So essentially what we have is, of course, the MYP planner translated into Toddle with some few additional sections for everybody to be able to do their work more easier and of course funner as well, right? So what can we do here? We can start with our reflection. Now, as you can see over here in the top of my screen, I have these 4 tabs. We have a reflection tab. This reflection tab is just so that you have a very quick access to all of the reflection sections in your unit. Okay, it's nothing different and it's nothing separate. This is directly from the planner, but we can just go into here directly. So reflection prior to your unit, the reflection is going to appear with your name. So here my name is Toddle. I will get my name right here. What's the nice thing about doing these planners on a platform like Toddle? That I can say, I had no idea what to expect, right? So you can do your prior to the unit reflection, but you can also add, you can also add some interactive material. You can add a note, you can add something from either OneDrive or Google Drive, or even maybe you have a little video, you can add it, right? So you can do a lot more with your reflections over here. You save. If you come back later and you decide that you want to improve your reflection, you can also do that because you have an edit option. So I can go over here and of course I can edit. These two, we have a speech bubble and we have a light bulb. Does anyone want to guess what the light bulb is? Or if you've used the platform a little bit, you can tell me. So the light bulb, what it is, it's going to give us, it's going to enlighten us, okay? So we have the light bulb, if I want to say in all parts of the planner, but if not all, then most. And the idea is that you get that section from principles to practice that talks more about that particular planning section. Why did we do this? So that you don't have to have a separate PDF document or a separate place where you're looking into principles to practice. Here it is. And of course, this is going to allow you to have much better reflections and much better everything, because you're going to be able to guide yourself with some deeper questions, right? So obviously, if I follow this, my reflection is going to be a lot better. What else do we have here? Speech bubble. What is the speech bubble for? Collaboration. We want to promote collaboration as much as possible. Of course, even if you're in a subject-specific unit, you can still possibly get the collaboration of your coordinators, right, or other teachers from the same subject, from the same level. And this is what you can do here. You can send voice notes and you can send messages. And even I can send specific messages to specific collaborators, right? So I can send a message to any of these of my colleagues, and I can ask them to give me a little bit of insight, perhaps, if I need that. Now, if I do, by the way, if I do send a message, so what do you think? Then speech bubble now has a 1. It means this is good. This means that we have collaboration going on. We go back, so we've already filled in this reflection prior to unit. What did Toddle do? It gave us a little check mark, right? So this is going to be our way of, it's essentially going to be our, to-do list, and we're filling it in as we go. And Toddle is helping us by telling us what we have completed. I can go back now to inquiry and action, which is actually where I was. Remember that this just is here and it's also here. What I'm going to be able to do then is I'm going to be able to continue with my planning. Toddle is going to guide you, but of course you can do, if you need to plan in a different order, you can do it. We're just kind of getting the guidance of this order of the planner over here. Key concept, so you choose your key concept. You don't remember the definitions of the concepts, no problem. Just click on the or stand over the information and there you are. You can choose your key concepts from other subject groups as well, of course, but you're always going to be led with the ones from your subject first, right? We go then to related concepts. And again, it's going to tell you, it's going to guide you to choose the ones for science. And we have, again, the definitions for those concepts in case you need that information. Let's choose 2. And there we are. Again, as you can see, always light bulb and speech bubble. We can then go to our global context. And I want to stop here for a second because this is really nice, actually. You choose your global context. As you can see, I'm not getting a check here. Why is that? Because I haven't chosen my exploration, right? The explorations here are all of the ones that we have in Principles to Practice, but the nice thing is that although they're here and although they're lined out for me, I can edit them. So human capability and development, you know what? This is going to be a short unit. I'm going to make this simpler and I'm just going to kind of keep it there, human capability. Okay, so you can do that, you check it, and there you go. We now get our check mark because now our global context is complete with this exploration. Now, as you can see, when I just clicked on statement of inquiry, this window opened. What we have over here, so we have our menu here, which I kind of call our checklist, right, of what we need to plan. And over here, if you had already seen, we have a menu with 4 different buttons. When I got into statement of inquiry, this one opened by default. If I don't want it, I can close it, okay? But it's opening up for a reason. And the reason is that when we're writing a statement of inquiry, what information do we need? What do we need to look at that we've already planned? Ideally. We need to look at our global context. We need to look at our exploration, exactly. And what else?
The statement of inquiry.
Yeah.
Key concept.
Key concept.
Exactly. Now, remember that Toddle is making your life easier. Okay, so every time that something pops up, think that it's something that's going to help you. Okay, so here we're going to write our statement of inquiry, and it would be a lot easier to write our statement of inquiry if at the same time I could be looking at my concepts, at my global context, at my exploration, right? So that's what this is here for. So I'm here still in my planner, but meanwhile, I could be looking at what I have already planned. If I don't want it, remember everything in Toddle, essentially, if you don't want something, you just click on that same button that opened. But we can do that. So that way we can write a really nice statement of inquiry, right? So you write your statement of inquiry. And then you can either choose to close this, or we can just leave it there, you know? We go to our inquiry questions. And as you can see, all this time we have the option of leaving our planner overview over here by the side. Of course, here you can type in your questions, factual, conceptual, debatable, as many as you want. Nice thing is that, of course, you can divide them here specifically. Your learner profile attribute. This is not usually in the planner, but we know that as an IB school, we need to use it anyway. So we just decided to put this here for you. And again, if I need to be looking at other information, I can open that. The objectives. So remember that we chose the year 1 objectives, but now I'm going to be able to choose which strands I'm going to focus on in this unit if that is something that I'm going to filter, right? So sometimes we don't necessarily work with all the objectives, so we can choose the ones that we're going to choose over here. This is all going to become more and more relevant when we start then creating our learning experiences, because our learning experiences are then going to be kind of aligned with what we're choosing here. Okay, so that's why, because right now you could say, what's the difference if I choose all, if I choose less? The difference is that when you're doing your assessments, when you're doing your experiences to take place in your classroom, they are going to be defined by what you have chosen here. Okay. In this case, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to choose objective A and B. In this case, I'm just going to work on those two in this unit and continue. Approaches to learning. So in the approaches to learning, in the MYP, we often give, maybe those of you that have worked in the PYP and MYP, you have the idea, of course, and the notion that in the MYP, we give a lot more emphasis to ATLs. And sometimes we even make learning experiences specifically for an ATL. Even if I'm a science teacher, I don't necessarily do a class on science, but maybe I do a class on note-taking, because it's an ATL that I have agreed with my team that I'm going to develop with the kids, right? So this is when these others start becoming important. I can be here and I can be choosing an ATL. So let's say that I choose, there is a note-taking one, but it's probably in one of the others. Let's just choose use intercultural understanding. And at that moment, I remember that just the other day, I happened to watch a really nice documentary which talked about this. And I want to show a little piece of that to the kids. So I can add a resource. And this is why we have that here. You don't have to wait until you get to your resources to add resources. You can add resources while you're planning. You can add resource, of course, as a note. So just maybe I'm going to just write to myself, remember to look for documentary. You know, and later I'll change that. I can delete this later and just add it as a link, right? Or maybe I remember the link right away, so you can just add the link. But that's what this is here for. You can go planning everything and not be leaving less things for later, right? What else can I do here? I can even create a learning experience. So if I just thought of a learning experience that I really want to do with the kids, I haven't even gotten to my standards. I'm just here in the ATLs, but I can start either looking at my learning experiences. I have 0 for now, or I can add. Okay, so this is why. And of course, we have assessments. So in the learning experiences, we have what in the planner, in the MYP planner, is called learning experiences. And in the assessments, we have formative and summative assessments. And we'll look at that in just a minute. I will close that. You finish choosing your skills, of course, the ones that you're going to focus on. Summative assessment, so directly from the planner. How will students show that they have understood? This is the description of the summative assessment, but the summative assessment as a task, and especially because you guys are going to be using the classroom, we're going to also create it over here. Okay, so you have the description and you have the task. And we continue planning all from the planner. So I will maybe just go a little quicker here so that we can then get into the creation of learning experiences and assessments. Content standards. Can any of you, I would like to hear from any of you, do you also use certain standards from your state, or are you just using the MYP objectives? I know this is also possible.
We're just using the MYP objectives.
Okay, perfect. So maybe you won't necessarily have anything here. I know that some schools, of course, have to use standards. state standards, for example. Other schools are using the MYP objectives exclusively. And other schools even sometimes they add the content standards, even though they're not a requirement, just to guide teachers in terms of so you can have it either way, and that's perfect, right? At the moment, we can just skip through that. And let's go into learning experiences. But before we go there, I would love to hear if you have any questions up to here, kind of this general overview of the planner.
Juliana, I have a quick question about ATLs in your teaching practice. When you design a unit, how many ATLs? What's sort of the maximum you think is effective for a unit?
I would say, and you know that there's no specific number even from the IB, but I think from my experience teaching in the MYP, I can say that it's more, of course, effective when you have less. And when I say less, I'm talking about probably, you know, around 6 or 8, or we don't choose. I decided in the end to not choose so many so that I can actually make sure that the kids develop them. And I always use the note-taking one as an example, simply because it's something that you can really develop, and it takes time, you know, to have kids learn how to take notes. Although I guess right now they're not. That has changed a lot. But so yeah, how many have you usually used?
Honestly, I don't like to use more than 3. Just
even better. No, even better. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a great number, Douglas, actually, and I would suggest that. And I know that schools have gone through a lot of the schools that I've worked in, at least, you know, at the beginning, we made an Excel table trying to divide them. And in the end, I think you just find a way to explore less, but less is more. So yeah, I think that's the best. I would go with 3. So we've created our planner. We have, of course, our differentiation section. This is all from the planner once again. And then we go into what I would like to show you next, is the learning experiences. So I'm actually going to, because I didn't, as you realized, I may not have chosen all of the elements, all of the MYP elements here in this unit. So I'm just going to go to one that I had previously created, but it's exactly the same. And I will show you why. So we have now created our unit, and we now want to create those learning experiences and those formative and summative assessments that are going to implement the unit, right? So let's create a learning experience over here from scratch. How do you create a learning experience? It's very similar, if you realize, to creating a unit. We're going to put in all that essential information, right? So title. So let's say that we're going to start our unit with reflection or with student questions, making connections, right? One of these kind of inquiry cycle sections that we like to begin with. Again, you can add your photo to make your learning experience colorful. Proposed duration. It's going to tell you what's the outline of the learning experience. You know, this is something very simple. I just want my kids to reflect on the concepts, on the main concept of my unit, right? So students will reflect on the key concept. That's it. You can add audio instructions, because this is possibly something that you're going to send them, that you can even send them. And even if you're not in virtual and you're not in a virtual modality, you can still send things through Classroom. So perhaps you want to add your audio instructions. You can add a template as well. We have this workbook option, which is very dynamic. You can also create a template from Drive or from something in your device. when you put something in template, it creates a copy for each student. That just that happens. And what resources will you need? So of course, there's a difference between templates and resources. What will students need? So perhaps you attach a PDF as a resource, but you give something else as a template, okay? And let's just add something here. This is great. We also have this in the PYP, of course, and you can imagine this is great for all the kids, even for tracing. So let's just say that you can actually add an image even, and then have kids write on top of that image or something. Let's just do a little something here, just so that it looks more real. Kids can trace, they can do all types of things here in the workbook. Okay, so I'm creating the template. There we go. I can add some resources, and I wanted to get to this point over here. I can tag learning goals. So this is what I was referring to, being very consequent with what you want to tag in your unit, because then when we come to this adding blocks, I'm going to be able to tag those learning goals that I have previously planned. So I can say, you know what? Well, this actually, students will reflect on the key concept. So of course, this is directly addressing my key concept, right? But perhaps I'm also working on the learner profile attribute, and perhaps I'm also working on a specific ATL. I want kids to think, right? So this is the wonderful thing about having everything already tagged in your unit, is that then you can follow it up in your learning experiences. Okay, we also opened that teacher notes section, if you realized, and that teacher notes section is, as you can imagine, to keep notes that are private to teachers. If I assign this, this is not gonna be assigned. This is just for us.
There's a question in the chat about the
Yeah. And Carmen. So Carmen, you can definitely also add those. So we have the questions. So I can just go in here and click on it. So this is essentially what we always try to do as teachers. We plan, and then we want to put that planning into action. But sometimes it's very hard to keep track of everything and know that you're doing learning experiences and formative and summative assessments that are addressing everything. So over here, that's why we want you to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm doing, you know, or maybe it's more of a debatable question, right? Because it's more conceptual. So, or a conceptual question, sorry, not debatable. So yeah, you can do that over here as well. Yeah. So these questions have already been added. Exactly. And when I'm done, I can save and exit. As you can see, I can also see my planner overview as I'm planning a learning experience. And if you want to see your learning experience in PDF, you can also do that, or you can print it, of course. So I save and exit. And now I have added a new learning experience to my learning experience library. So these two, remember that I changed units, right? So these two, I already have them. And this one is the one that I just created. What if I want to edit it? You can edit it. You can create a duplicate. You can, of course, print it. Or if you decide not to do it, just you can delete it. Okay. So this is learning experiences. As you can see, it's fairly simple because they're just learning experiences. They're not assessments. We have a different tab for assessments. They're similar, but of course, they're going to have a few more elements, right? Including, of course, the assessment, which is incredible. So I'm going to show you. So we add an assessment, and it's going to tell me, do you want to add a summative or a formative? So let's add they're actually very similar in structure. So let's add a formative assessment. Again, title, right? So let's just say Italy, because this is a formative assessment, right? So Italy, fun facts. I don't know, you're creating a nice formative assessment for your kids. Add from Unsplash, again, cover image, duration. Now, because this is an assessment and not just a learning experience, we can now add some additional information from the IB. So what type of assessment strategy are you going to use? So let's say that I'm going to do a process journal. I want kids to collect information, and this is what I'm going to be assessing. Okay. And what type of assessment task is this? So it's let's say a questionnaire. That's what they're going to create. They're going to create a questionnaire on Italy based on a process journal that they're going to do while they investigate. Outline of the formative assessment. Remember that over here, you can always do bullet list, you can do number list. If you want to do this, if this is something you're going to assign to the students in classroom, you can add emojis, right? Maybe you can make the text bigger. So you can make this fun for your kids, you know, even if they're older kids, you can still make it a little bit bigger and make it numbered, you know? So that's why we've given you those options over here. Again, you can add, I'll just click out. You can add a template, and the very, very nice part about these assessments on Toddle is, one second, because now this thinking. I'll just add a smiley there. Okay. This is not Toddle by any means. This is my computer. So I apologize. Okay, let's close that. And there. Again, you can add a template. So just like in the previous learning experience, we can also add resources, but here is the essence of these formative and summative assessments. I'm going to click on the 3 blocks. These add blocks, by the way, are very important. They are not in those experiences just because we want to give you the option of adding them, but I'm sure that many of you will want to add them many times. You can create an assessment tool. Now, what assessment tool do I want to choose for this formative assessment? I'm going to create a checklist, okay, in this case. Or I can create a rubric, or I can create a single point rubric, etc. Okay, and actually I was going to do a checklist, but I'm going to do a rubric just because I think it'll give you more sense. Now, we have some samples here, and as your school uses Toddle more and more, you're also going to have kind of a assessment library, which you can choose from. But in this case, I am going to just say, create a new rubric. So when I create a new rubric, it's going to give me the option of, one second, because beginning overlapping. Okay, you know what I really wanted to do? So yes, you can create a rubric out of scratch, but you can also, I can create a rubric with my subject-based criteria. Okay, so this is where this becomes incredible for MYP teachers. So here, it's going to tell me, okay, which of these criteria, right, which are also our objectives, are you going to choose to assess this formative assessment, this Italy fun facts? So I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to be assessing 2 strands of A and 2 strands of B, okay? What does Toddle do for me? It creates that rubric. So this is really nice. Can I edit it? Yes, you can edit it. So perhaps you want to customize it a bit more to the activity, you can do that. Okay, but what's going to be really nice is that now this rubric is going to be part of this formative assessment that you just created. Okay, and of course, if you chose more, if you also chose the criterion D, why am I only getting A, B, and D? Because these are the ones that I chose in my unit. Okay, so everything goes aligned. What you choose in your unit is what you're going to be able to then choose in your assessments. And Paula, yes, we're going to get to that question just now. So, okay, so we again, remember, we can also tag learning goals. So the question is, the answer is yes, students are going to be able to see this if you assign it to them. So right now where it is, no, because this is right now stored in my planning. But if I assign this on Classroom, yes, students will be able to see this. So again, remember, you can tag all the elements, you can tag questions, you can tag ATL skills, etc., and you create your formative assessment. Okay, now we've gone through, we've seen that we have our planner overview, we've seen learning experience, formative and summative assessments, and we've seen that we have resources here. By the way, and just so you know, resources are going to be fed not only by what I add directly, but also everything that I add in a learning experience or in a formative. So in a formative assessment, if I add a link, that link is going to show over here in resources, because it all goes as part of the resources for my unit. So I've planned, I've done all of my my planning section here. Unit flow is something else, but you know what? Unit flow, I'm going to just tell you very quickly. Unit flow is where you can organize the order of your unit. In this case, we can do it by weeks, but if I don't want to use weeks, I can edit this and I can do it by inquiry cycle. Okay, or I can do it by anything that you can imagine. Okay, we just put here weeks as a sample. And I can organize all those learning experiences into my weeks. Okay, I'm not going to stay here much longer. This is very similar in the PYP, so perhaps we can look at those later. But I want to go into Classroom for a little bit because I know that this session is almost almost over. Yes.
They want to stop here because we are having a great session, but there's a lot of information to work with. Okay. So they want to schedule a new meeting. I will talk with you after this meeting, and then we will see if we want to meet again during this week.
Okay, okay. Sorry guys for overwhelming you and not giving you time to practice.
But it was amazing.
It was great. It was great. We just had so many information and we are like all new to it. So we get that it was a lot of things, but you know, I think that we have a sense of how to start planning. And so if we can work on that, then next section will be more useful for us too, in terms of like, how do we link the planner to Toddle Classroom, or like, how do we add a post and all those things. So I think we have a good moment right now, and we're going to have another section this week. So we have time also to then go deeper on the classroom, attendance, and journal.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juli. Thank you to all the Scuola team members. Thank you, Ale. And I will send you the recording link just as soon as it's ready. It is ready.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
all
much.
over there at La Scuola. And okay.